So this looks nice so far, but if you notice in our Android Messenger, two things. One, over here, it doesn't have the word logo, it has a phone number, and then over here it just has two icons. You see those two things? Now, let's go fix that first before you do anything else. How does that sound? Good? Okay. So the first thing we're going to fix is we're going to come into the nav bar, and let's get rid of this word logo, and let's just put in, I'm just going to put in my name. And you can put in your own name there. And I'm going to delete one of these links. And I'm going to delete the href from both of these links. We don't actually need them right now until we want them to link to something. So right now I'm just going to do this. And I actually don't want them to hide on medium and down, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. So this should be all that your current nav bar has in it. It doesn't matter if it has like hide on medium and down, but I just got rid of it anyway just because it makes my life easier. And so instead of that word SAS, I'm going to replace that with an icon. And that icon we can get in there by saying an I tag, that you give a class equals material icons. I'm actually going to do this across the whole page so you can see this a little easier. There we go. And when it says material icons, I want that bell, just like it has right here. To get that bell and material icons, I think this one's called notifications. So you just write the word notifications inside there, and that should actually work. And so if you save this and you refresh, you should see, oh, a bell has notifications. Wait, I'm going to refresh this. There we go. It says Mr. Jeff Astor and a bell. Does everybody have that? If you don't have that, check that you have inside the first anchor tag, you have an icon with the I tag right there and a class equals material icons. And then the word you have inside the I tag is notifications, because that will mess you up if you don't get it correct. Cool? Just as a heads up. Now if you look at the other icon here, the other icon is 3 dots going up, straight up and down. The way to do that is do the exact same thing as we did before. Put an I tag in there. Instead of the word, replace the word components with the I tag, and then change that word to more_vert. And if you do that, you should actually have 2 icons now. Oops, that's not what I want. Here we go. 2 icons, one with the bell and one with those 3 dots going up and down. You see that? Yeah, you get rid of the word SAS and the words components. And so if you do this, you'll see we now have something that's like a lot more similar to what we actually wanted, which is kind of nice. Yes. Oh yeah, so let me go back to the code. This is what it looks like right here. So we didn't actually write a lot of code, we just got rid of a few things. We got rid of the word SAS, we got rid of the words components, and we replaced them with an icon element with the word notifications inside it, and an icon element with the word more_vert inside it. Does that make sense? So these icons are material icons that are included because we included this material icons library right here, which allows us to use any of the material icons we want. If you want to find more material icons, you just go to, I think it's like material.io/tools/icons or something like that. I'm pretty sure. Let's find out. Yeah, there you go. And you can look up all the different icons they have here. They have so many nice ones. They have them filled, outlined, rounded, two-tone. Play around with those, and if you like a different icon more, use that icon. And you'll find that when you build apps, you can use whatever icon you like. Icons are great. I'll be honest, I love icons, so do your thing. Live your life. But if you notice in our screenshot here, notice how the icons aren't like directly up to the next to the right of each other, right there, you see that? And how they're the actual name is not pressed up against the side here. So we're gonna add some padding to the nav bar to make sure that those are a little further away from the edges. Cool? to do that, you want to head directly into your Nav Wrapper. See how it's the Nav Wrapper right here? Also, look how like ours is red and the one up here is purple. That doesn't actually matter. We can change that later. But just to give you a sense of how to do that, because I think it's important to know how to do colors in CSS. If you look at the word, if you go to CSS right here and color, it'll actually have how to change all the background colors of anything you want. And so if we look at this one right here, that's like a light purple, or like a light-ish purple, right? Is that right? A light-ish purple. So you could like find which of these you think matches that the most. Maybe it's like indigo or deep purple. Yeah, it's probably like a deep purple. What do you think, darken 1 or darken 2? Purple darken 4? You think 1? I'm going to go with 2, just to be different. And you can go with whatever one you like the most. And so to make that work, you just, right after the word Nav Wrapper, you write deep purple. I think I had a dash in it. Deep purple, darken 2. Yeah, deep purple, darken 2. And what that'll do is it'll actually make that nav bar deep purple like that. You might have been right. It might have been, I think your color sense is better than mine. That color's a little too dark, huh? So we need darken 1, you think? Yeah, you're right, you're right. Let's refresh that, see how it looks now. Okay, that's a little nicer. Maybe still a little too dark, but we can live with it now, right? We cool with that for the time being? And you can set it to whatever color you think is right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take this Nav Wrapper right here, and we want to give it some padding. Padding left and padding right. So right after the main, I'm going to say dot nav dash wrapper, and I'm going to say padding left 40 pixels, padding right 40 pixels. Save that now and see what yours looks like. If you full screen that, you should see that it looks pretty nice, to be honest. So I said the padding left to 40 pixels to move this away from the left, and the padding right 40 pixels to move this away from the right. And now we have something that's looking a little closer to what we want. Maybe not perfect yet, but we're a lot closer to where we were to what this actually looks like here. See that? We're getting there. Now this hasn't taken us a ton of work, so Materialize does a lot of the work for us, which is just so nice. The fact that Materialize does that work just makes our life better, I promise you. Cool? So now, to cap this off, let's add some stuff to our sidebar here, so that sidebar looks a little bit better. Cool? So inside the sidebar, let's add a few more things. We're going to add 3 new divs to it. We're going to add a div to hold this section right here. We're going to add a div to hold this section right here. And we're going to add a div to hold this section right here. So 3 different divs. Cool? Is that all right with everyone? Let's do that right now. So inside our index.html, in the empty sidebar, let's add 3 divs. And each div is going to have its own class. The first one I'm just going to call side-header. The second one I'm going to call, let's call it like sub-header. I don't know. And this one let's call contacts. Because that's all the contacts that are going to go inside that little section right there. So we're adding 3 divs, and we're going to style each of those divs up. Now each of these 3 divs is going to have its own little section with its own information and its own content in it. So inside the side header, we need to make sure we have that word messages right here and those 3 dots. Over here we need a button with a plus sign and the new conversation word. And then over here we need to be able to include all of our contacts as they come up. So to do that, let's add a little bit of code, which will actually make this pretty easy. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a paragraph tag with a class equals black text, and we're going to say messages. And then right next to that, we're going to add an icon with the class equals material icons. And it's going to say more underscore vert. Now, if I do this, I don't even know if this is correct. Let's find out if this is correct really quickly. If I refresh this, okay, cool. That's not big enough, is that? That messages is probably not big enough. You notice that? That's tiny. That's not really what I want. And those 3 dots are on top of each other. Whereas if you look here, this is pretty big and it's to the right. You notice that? And in fact, I think this is actually a link here. So it might even be easier to surround this P tag to say that this is surrounded by an A tag with an href to, let's just say to the home page right here, and put messages inside that link. And give the class a black text to the anchor tag instead. Oh man, that's a ton of stuff. Things are getting a little crazier now all of a sudden. We also want all of our code, or like our font size, to be a little bit bigger, I think. So in the sidebar, we probably want to set that font size to, like, I don't know, something a little bit larger, like 20 pixels. You know what I'm saying? So we should probably add some styles to the side header to make that look nice. So thumbs up when you have all the HTML ready so I know that I can add some CSS to this and make it look a little nicer. Give me a thumbs up, and if you're not, it's cool. I'll pause and I'll stop here and I'll get you guys going in a second. Thumbs up. I think we're about ready to do a few more things here. So I'm going to save my code and head into the style.css. And I'm actually going to add a few things to the sidebar to make it look a little nicer. Now both of these are going to be a little funky, but before I do that, I'm going to add some stuff to the side header so that the side header has some styles that I want. I'm going to have the side header display flex also, and I'm going to tell it to align its items in the center so it centers itself nicely. And I'm going to tell it to justify its content with a space between so that they have as much space between them as humanly possible. And I'm going to set the font size to 20 pixels and give it a little bit of padding. 0 pixels on the top and bottom, and 18 pixels on the left and right. And just by doing this, you'll notice that it already looks a little nicer. So why don't you do that, save it, and see what happens. And I'm still having you do a lot of the coding here, typing out and everything. But when we get to the JavaScript, I'll be sending you a little bit of JavaScript, and we'll be thinking about exactly what the JavaScript does before we actually type it out and get it working on our code. So what does it look like now? Does it look okay? Does it look a little closer to what we wanted? Let me know. We getting there, Belisa? Yeah, I think so. Funny enough, if we save this right here and we check out the Android Messenger app, like, that's a little bit closer. Not exactly what I want. This still might be a little too big, right? This might be a little too small. But if you look at this, like, it's not bad. These gray dots are actually gray over here and not black. So we can probably change that to be from black to gray. We can do that in a second if you want. That's actually not super hard, but just giving you an idea of like what it could look like and what it looks like now. I think it's important to see how to get things to where we want them to be. And you'll notice we're actually a lot closer. But if you look at the sidebar versus the main section here, notice how it has this like line down the center here. It's got this nice little shadow on the right. To make that happen, you only need a little bit more code. All you need to do is in the sidebar, and both of these are going to look really weird at first, and then I'll explain what's happening in a second. We're going to give this a border right of solid 1 pixels RGBA 200, 200, 200, and 0.8. Now that means red 200, green 200, blue 200, which ends up, if you have all 3 of those colors, it's a little bit gray. And then the 0.8 stands for opacity. So 1 would be not see-through at all, 0 would be entirely see-through, 0.8 is just like a little bit see-through. And it ends up looking a lot nicer if you do that. So if you save this here, and I can actually slack all of this out to you, but if you save this, we should now have like a relatively decent looking layout for the most part. It'll look something like this, with that line down there, and that kind of separates them a little more nicely. You notice that? Just by adding this solid little border right. And so I think that's enough for this video. I've already talked way too long. Probably split this into two if we wanted to. But I'm going to move on to the next part, and we're going to actually get the content in the content section with the buttons and all the inputs and all that nice stuff there. Cool? Lovely.